Hello, guys. It's Kacper. You're very welcome to another part of our podcast. And here with me it's Kenny. Hello, Kenny.
Hello.
Here is Wout
Yo.
and Davida.
Hello guys, how's it going?
In this podcast, we will talk more like about specific topic more than last time because last time in our podcast we just talked more about ourselves and our sport background and just to introduce you guys, our viewers, their podcast. And today we will talk more specific. Today's topic is sport specific resistance training and yeah, because all of us we have different backgrounds from different sports, so we thought it's a good idea to talk about it more. And because resistance training is a big part of SNC, so how we'll see how it's going in strength training in our sports. And firstly, what I want to do is to ask you guys, Kenny, Vaut, and Davide, about your sports and like maybe short description, but very short about the resistance training in your sport. And then we will jump into each of us and we'll talk more about the sports, okay? So maybe Kenny, you can introduce yourself. What's your sport? And yeah.
So hi again. I'm Kenny, and I will in this episode I will focus on resistance training for middle to long distance runners because I have the most experience as a middle distance runner, and so that's what I will cover. Um, like maybe a short stimulus for you guys. Um, like typically runners often avoid resistance training, and you may have heard some runners say that they fear about gaining weight, um, or that the time investment is not worth the outcome, or they simply don't believe in resistance training and its benefits to performance and injury prevention. So these fears are pretty common, but they're really outdated, and we will dive deeper into it.
Yeah, perfect. Uh, as my experience is also in running, I can agree that long distance runners then they don't like to do it. They don't like to do resistance training, but it's so underrated and it's so powerful, I think.
Yes.
So yeah, we'll talk about it more. So Wout, how about you?
Yes, yeah, my focus point for today's episode is football, and I will make in my answers uh, a difference in youth, so in academy football and senior football, because there's also a big difference. Um, it's what I heard from, I didn't know about it, but what Kenny said, it's quite similar actually with footballers. Because football is still very technical dominant. So you, of course, physical is very also a dominant phase. But if you just are way better with the ball, then pace, strength is still a little bit of useless. So that's why all lots of footballers are afraid of becoming too big or too slow, because then they can't keep up with their technical high level, because they will fade away slowly. But yeah, like Kenny said, in football it's the same. It's that that mindset is very outdated, because now in football it's also the performance is getting way and way better, and with the good guidance and the good professors, you can really add resistance training to your qualities and capabilities in becoming more explosive, more agile, more mobile. That will only enhance football performance on the pitch. But yeah, in summarize, the resistance training is for each individual actually way different, because we have so many positions on the field with other demands, other needs. So it really depends on the player, on the player's position and the body composure, what you offer the athlete for resistance training, because they have to the technical uh, technical level is still the most important, and resistance training has to be an adding an adding to get the technical level as high as it is, and it may be even higher. So that's it actually.
Okay, perfect. Davide?
I really got you guys when you're saying when you are talking about fearing resistant training in your sports, because also my athletes uh, also fears to become too much bigger, too much slow, but not just the athletes. I often see that fear that is not correct, of course, in some colleagues who's are not into strength and conditioning, like specific sport coaches who are not so convinced about the um, importance of resistance training. I'm into fencing and calisthenics. I'm a strength and conditioning for fencing since 2023, and I train calisthenics I've trained it for several years, like for 8 years, and these two disciplines are very different for the specific strength which are um, request for the two, because in fencing you are more biased through let's say speed strength capabilities, speed strength nuances of strength, while in calisthenics uh, you are more towards, let's say, maximal strength. So in that case, being bigger, so gaining some muscular mass, will also help the athlete to express more maximal strength. So in that sense, in my opinion, these are two very different disciplines who requires different approaches. And as you know, when you are searching for maximal strength gains and not, for example, maximal power gains, muscle mass is a bit more useful for that purpose. And that's is clearly not the same for speed strength related sports. So
And
in any case,
in
I recommend mm, that the resistant training. I really suggest the use of resistant training for both sports, because in any case, resistant training will enhance neuromuscular capabilities for both sports. So is really an important aspect for both.
Okay, so Davide, I have a question. Like,
Yeah, sure.
what are the specific methods that you use, that you are implementing on your athletes to, like, related to resistance training, to
Yeah.
make them better? Like, you are focusing more on maximal power development, more like, for sure not, but I think also some kind of hypertrophy training, or like super strength training, like also you can probably use some contrast training, so high intensity with plyometrics. How you use it, like in few words you can describe it.
Yeah, sure, sure. So while training calisthenics athlete or street lifting athletes, for the listeners who don't know what is street lifting is just a similar discipline of powerlifting, but with three different main lifts. These three lifts are uh, pull-ups or chin-ups, dips, and squats. So similar in similar in powerlifting, in the competition you have to maximize your lifts. Okay, trying to.
And when it's related to street lifting, you
Uh,
use back squat, or what type of squat?
yes, in street lifting you use back squats, but
Okay.
let's say calisthenics is just in the later years. is being divided into different subcategories like calisthenic skills, weighted calisthenics, which is street lifting, and calisthenics endurance. So
Yeah,
to
because
say,
like in calisthenics, you don't use like a weight that you put on your body. Yeah, like in
yes,
calisthenics, you
yes,
use your
exactly.
own body weight.
Yes, for the calisthenics skills part, it's correct. Anyway, it's still a very strength dominant discipline. So even if you don't practice street lifting and you practice just the calisthenics skills part, uh, still the maximal strength as a dominant role, because by using not advantages, leverages, you can you know train your maximal strength also by not using external weights. For example, by doing a full planche. Don't know if you know what I mean, or a different static position, or one arm pull up on the rings or on the bar. These elements requires a lot of strength. So
Mhm.
for this purpose, also, like I was saying before, you need some muscle mass, because the cross section area of your muscle will help you in gain some more strength in
But
this
you have to
regard.
find the balance right in calisthenics.
Sorry, man.
You have to find the balance right between muscle mass and the maximum strength, because weight is also a factor in calisthenics, like your own weight. Yeah.
Yes, that's true. But if your muscle mass is quite clean, let's say, so not with too much fat mass, you can really get some help about that. Because if while gaining some muscle mass, you are also gaining too much fat mass, it's more some weight you have to lift, which is not actually helping you for sure,
So
because
like,
it's not active mass. So you have to pay attention for that. Why building some muscle? You have to build some clean muscle, let's say.
mm.
Okay,
So
and
when you have like the muscle mass here, and your performance, like maybe the muscle mass goes up here, but the performance shoots up really high. So that's it's not so. Is it like that? Like you don't have to, even if you gain a little bit of weight, your performance really benefits from it, right?
it does, but it's not the most important factor, because, as I said, calisthenics is a much strength-related discipline. So, like all strength-related disciplines, um, neural aspects are the most important for that. So, muscle mass will help you, but the most influent factors will always be neural aspects. So intermuscular patterns, intramuscular activation patterns. So how many motor units you can recruit, and how is your firing rate of them, and stuff like this. So for training these specific aspects related on neural aspects, I always use high percentual loads. For example, beyond 85% of 1 RM, while for um, developing more structural adaptation, I will focus always on a bit lower weights. That's because lower weights make me do more volume, and as you know, volume is a much more um, um, powerful. Um,
For increasing muscle mass.
yes, it has a stronger effect on structural adaptation
And
rather than intensity. Volume is the key driver for structural adaptation. And also, in my opinion, very important aspect of calisthenics is the technical aspect, because you have to be really efficient to avoid um, unuseful, you know, um,
you have to
uh,
be efficient, right?
Yes, to avoid to express force in a not useful manner, you have to be very technical. So to improve your technique, you have to work on lower intensities, and that will allow you to manage the technique in the perfect form. So repeating the correct technique, even with lighter load, while using rubber bands, which allows you to practice with less than your body weight, the skill itself.
Okay, I got also a question. Maybe it's about I met a guy last week. He participating in the Dutch Calisthenics Championship. A little bit off track, sorry guys, but it was just curiosity about the rule set. He was talking about the skill competition on the high bar, and he says that it's very important to know if you or to win if you start or be as in a like a one-on-one duel on the high bar. He said, "Yeah, I prefer to go as the last one because then I know what the other guy does because like the rule set is like you said." There comes also my question that if you go for risky exercises like more loose from the bar and then you fail, that's so much a decrease in points that if you play safe your entire element, then you almost directly win. So, but I was curious about you. What do you think of that rule set? Because if you're last, you can see what he does, and if he feels like a big element, then you know, okay, I play safe.
Yes, it's also a tactical thing because in the time you have to complete your set, you are trying to achieve the most points possible. Every skills based on his difficult has a different value in terms of point you can achieve. There are also malus if you perform your skill in a not perfect way. But if you are the last to complete your set, you can before just imagine how many points your opponents have achieved. So you can also play your set in a more conservative way because making some computation, you can predict your total points and your opponent's one.
Yeah.
So it depends on the strategy you choose.
Isn't that
And
a shame?
sorry,
Isn't that with gymnastics it's quite the same? But
yes,
isn't
it's
that
similar.
just very shameful because then like the spectacularness of the sport because it's very spectacular
Yes,
will decrease?
it's similar because also gymnastics has some similar aspects of calisthenics. In gymnastics, you have a different class of skills, and in calisthenics, you don't have classes, but you simply have different points for each of the skills you present. And yes, so it's really strategic work and tactical consideration you have to do while performing a set. And I also suggest while you are in the first phases of the competition, you cannot put 100% of effort because if you manage to going further in the competition, you will not have no more energy to spend. So you have also to decide based on your level the skill you want to pull on the competition.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, nice.
Okay,
Yeah.
David, I have last question to you. Like
Yes.
in this part, did you experience some injuries in your sport, fencing, calisthenics, street lifting? And if yes, like if you experience with your body or with your athletes, and if yes, how did you manage? What types of exercise did you use? Like maybe two exercises.
You mean exercises to get some rehab from injuries?
Yeah,
Or
yeah, the best rehab exercises, for example, for fencing or for maybe for fencing, because in calisthenics there are, I think, a lot.
Yes, in calisthenics, some common injuries are about the rotator cuff and tendon of the bicep brachii, the distal one, and they occur when your total training volume is beyond your recovery capabilities. And when you are
So what more about like fencing? What you think? Did you experience some injuries with your athletes, and how did you manage?
common injuries in fencing are about the patellar tendon and some hamstring ones, and other. Let me think. Also, some ankle sprain are common injuries in fencing. For this last one, I after the acute phase, which I'm not into because I'm not a physio, so I will not treat acute phases of any injury. But after that phase, to solve and reinforce the ankle complex, I always use plyometrics. Also not intensive one, not only intensive one, but also extensive plyometrics, which prepare the ankle complex to
So more like broad jumps or vertical jumps
uh,
or
in
side
that.
jumps, because like also in fencing, as I know, there is a lot of side movements. Yeah.
Yeah, they
So
are.
do you
They are.
also like prevent, for example, knees injuries or like adductors injuries with also like side jumps, or what do you think?
I tend to, while the plan is going toward a more specific phase, I tend to prefer lateral plane motions. So jumps in the lateral direction and less and less in the um, you know vertical direction, because it's not a specific plan for fencing athletes. So
Okay.
I try to choose lateral plyometrics, and I call them locomotive plyometrics because you're doing that while
It's
moving.
like sorry, it's like very functional, related to fencing, like to your sport. It's sport specific.
It's sport specific in that context, yes. But I'd like to precise one thing that is important in my vision of strength and conditioning. That is, sport specific is a term which is not to be abused in the context of strength and conditioning, because, in my opinion, strength and conditioning has to remain a bit general in the context of training, because the real specific training the athletes are going to do are the one done with the specific coach, sport coach, not the training done with the strength and conditioning coach, unless you want to do some overlapping training, which is not the best thing, because you have to develop general capabilities in the strength and conditioning part, which helps the specific capability developed in the specific part with the
Mhm.
specific coach.
Yeah,
So,
I agree.
yes, do you agree, Kenny?
Yeah, I agree because like you avoid also monotony, right? Like if you already do specific drills in the main training, and you they come to you to the S&C training, and you drill your drills are quite similar, then similar structures of the body get um, are stimulated again, and it can lead to injury risk, right? So
Yeah.
maybe yeah, like you said, more general exercises like main lifts. I guess you do squats, deadlift, or and as main lifts, I guess.
Yes, just to develop general qualities. So
Yeah,
strength, power, speed, agility, and things you can develop in a specific manner later on with your coach. and which are useful for every athlete. These are the most important thing in strength and conditioning, in my opinion. So yes, to answer to the Casper question, you have to develop a bit more specific set of exercise, but not too specific. You have to find the
So
right.
like I think it's very up to the phase you are into, yeah. So like it's when it's preparation phase, you do more like overall prepare. So plyo is more like vertical and horizontal,
Yeah, yeah,
ju-
yeah.
just or just different types of plyo. And when you are in more sport specific phase, so you are getting closer to competition, you are
You
doing
can.
as much specific as you do, yeah.
Yes, exactly. You can focus on more specific exercise for plyometrics, like lateral plane ones, or lateral broad jumps, or combining some drop jumps with some fencing lunges to
Yeah,
insert
I
some.
saw I saw on your Instagram that you
Yeah,
are doing a lot of like crazy crazy movements, but in
variation.
plyo. It's good. You can guys join the Davide Instagram. It's some good stuff.
Thank you, thank you.
Okay,
And also,
so yeah.
just one quick thing. You can apply this concept on all methods of strength training. So not just on plyometrics, but also on Olympic lifting, by translating some normal clean in squat stance into a split stance one. So doing the catches of the clean in the split stance, because it's a bit more similar to the fencing lunge you are going to
Yeah.
make in the competition. So you can uh, express deceleration forces in the split stance. Also, same thing for example, strength work by using squats or Bulgarian split squats, for example, a more
Mhm.
sagittal plane work. So you can apply that concept on every aspect of strength training.
Yeah. Okay. So like as I see, we can talk about our sports for 2 hours each, but let's go further.
Being too
So
long.
yeah, but David, it was perfect. Thank you for description.
Thank
And
you.
now let's focus more on football. So I didn't introduce myself. What's my sport? It's my sport specifics is like more football and track and field, like running. So now me and Wout, we will try to describe more football to our listeners, and then me and Kenny will talk about more like about the track and field, because Kenny have more background in endurance. I have more background in sprints. So yeah, it's good. So now, Wout, you can talk more about the sport specific resistance training in football, and me, I will talk also, and Kenny, David, you can join the conversation. You are very welcomed. Okay, so Wout, let's go.
Yes, yeah, for football, like I said in a warm up from this podcast in the introduction, it's very different for each position. But in most club settings, you don't have the resources or the staff to all give the guys a personal guidance and personal exercise set. So they most often, I will give you an example, they train very general and with more general liftings. So each that is for each play, it's very useful. And then they have like 1 day in a week, 2 day in a week, a more position and athlete specific training schedule training program that they follow, but still very general because, like I said, football is still technical dominant. So you you can fully invest in resistance training because then you will screw the technical part up. But to give you guys an example, what I also think are three uh, general good resistance training lifts that each footballer needs to create a great base of explosiveness, strength, and speed. and that are the Bulgarian split squats, and also the variations with the jumps, where they can be with full range of motion, full counter movement to a max power jump, but also the variation where you have a small amount of contact time on the ground, where it is contact on the ground and you jump immediately up. And with all those jumps, you take the knee up also. So those three are very useful for each footballer to create more explosiveness, also in a sagittal way, and in an unilateral way. So the second one is the trap bar deadlifts, very also very general, but to create for footballers all coming from a technical part, they have no knowledge and no experience in resistance training because it's still very two groups, the performance group and just the real ballers, the real footballers. So you have to create that solid base. And the third one, the hip thrust, of course, a more posterior chain focus. So these three, most academies, most athletes that have a trainer use these three exercises for a general way, and even in season also. At the end of the season, it will fade away a little bit more because of the amount of matches the footballers play. Because also it is hard to really develop a player in season because each week they have a match where they want to be fresh, they want to be smooth, and they don't prefer to have much of load and fatigue in their body. So it's divided in an entire week. And to give you guys an example of how a week is, when you have Saturday a game, so Saturday match day, Sunday mostly off, then you have Monday, you have a full training, pitch training, because they train every day, except of the Sunday, and the Monday they have a general strength and conditioning, so it's upper body, lower body. Tuesday they call the VCT training, and yeah, it's actually the FCT because the VCT is Dutch, football with the V, so football conditioning training, where the volume is way higher than the rest, so that's really a peak day, and they also train upper body. Wednesday is more off, more focusing on core stability and mobility. Thursday it's general full body workout, and Friday it's still training, but actually more individual work. So if you guys want to train more upper body or something else, they can. And Saturday is match day again. So you can see the difference in how the work goes, and there isn't enough or lots of room or space to really get the player to fast curve to get strong and get faster because of the weekly load is so high, and they have to perform. So that's quite it. And for if you want to personalize, uh, for example, the go most the modern way is the wingback variant because the winger defenders they have to cover so much distance. So in that way you train more sagittal, and for defenders you can train and goalkeepers also more frontal. And midfielders that they are like the all-rounders, they have to go transfers, they have to go everything. Um, yeah, and the wingers, so the left and the right wingers at front, they are more focused on peak output because they can more um, divide their actions and intensity in ways when they get the ball. So they don't have to react as much as a defender. So the defender is not in the lead. They still have to react each time of what the attacker does. So for my wingers that I train, they train more at peak velocity, peak power output, so they can really uh, how can you say it? Can really step out of the technical way and also just dominate them by just pace, just strength. So in that way, you have lots of difference each position. But for you guys, for the listeners, for the watchers, if you want to start with it, please try those three exercises for a solid base where you don't get do anything wrong or you get too big. Um, it's just a good way to start, and from there you can uh, broaden your way out with other exercise to make it more position specific, and how you want to be as an athlete.
Yeah, so now now I will talk about three because it's a good thing. I will mention three exercises which
Yeah.
are for me good, and you can give me your feedback. So what I do uh, mostly like three exercises. Firstly, back squat.
Mm-hmm.
Firstly, back squat, but in a prep phase, more back squats in full range of motion,
Yeah.
and as close you go to the specific, sport specific, and closer to the competition phase, I go more with box squat because in shorter range of motion, on higher velocities and higher intensity.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I do. Second one. The exercise which for me is very it's not very broad known, but I do it and it's very powerful. It's in zercher position, zercher
Yeah.
bar position, Cossack squat, because
Yeah.
in football the knee injuries are very common. Abductors, adductors, they work also very well in this exercise, and these are the muscles that work always in football. Changes of direction, accelerations, decelerations, not only as in sprints, not as in track and field you go forward, but also in football you have to change directions. You have to, for example, accelerate in one way, decelerate in another way. So adductors and abductors are very important. So that would be the second exercise, and third exercise are the Nordic curls.
Yeah. Big one.
Hamstring, hamstring, one of the most injured part of the body in football. I experienced it 3 times in my case. So yeah, I think it's good.
And the second one you said about the surge cross-leg squat, is it mainly focused for you personally as a coach, for injury prevention, or also do you implement it as enhancing performance on the pitch?
Mostly for prehab,
Yeah.
not for the enhancing the performance. Mostly for prehab, just to prevent from further injuries.
Mm-hmm.
And also Nordics in like extended eccentric phase. So for example, 5 seconds you go down, and I have just few athletes that can go up. So also,
Yeah.
I very often I do support them with the power band. I
Yeah.
make the power band as a backpack and I pull them, and they can use also some force to go back.
Yeah, true. And do you hold the power band?
Yeah.
Because I used also, but I just hang it on a bar where they
Mhm.
can go completely deep and eccentric, concentric. But you hold it. You can
Yeah,
give.
I stand like I stand next to them and I pull it when they can
Yeah.
go back.
Yeah,
Okay,
true.
so
Okay.
that
Can I
would be
jump
the
in
fix.
real quick?
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, yeah.
So I had a question. Why do you prefer Nordics over, for example, Romanian deadlifts?
To be honest, like for me, Nordics, like in football, the level of the technique of the athletes is very low. To be honest, and for example, when I train all of the team, so for example, 22 guys on the one training, and these guys are semi-pro, so they are maybe not on the biggest level of the technique. You know, to develop good technique in RDL, it can take some time, and also I'm
Yes.
worried. I'm worried with the low level of technique about lower back pain. So I'm doing more like Nordics. That's the case.
So they're semi-pro and they have difficulty with Romanian deadlifts.
Because they
Okay.
because they also work. Like
Yeah.
they train in the evening, but they do a lot of work. For example, one guy is a postman, so he walks a lot, and his lower back is in big pain sometimes. So implementing more lower back exercises can make him worse, but it's it's a wrong circle, because if you don't do lower back exercises, you will not get them more strength. in this case. But you know,
Yeah, but
Mhm.
also when I see your point, like the technique is really key here in deadlifts. So I really get that, because how you then choose your exercise based on that. But on the back pain, it's like you said, it's like a circle. If you don't train the deadlifts, which is for me like one of the best exercise also to gain strength in the back. So it's like a bit, yeah. But in return, when you don't have the proper technique, it can also be harmful and
Yeah.
Like I'm talking about this specific case because with this team I work with them for exact 1 year, and I started to be the coach, SNC coach of this team after the preparation phase. So I wasn't with them during the prep phase. So what I want to do in the next prep phase, preparation phase, to do just the technique. So maybe, for example, we can implement deadlifts, because also the trap bar deadlift, as Wout said, it's so powerful. So yeah, that's the specific case. But you know, when you have pro athlete, I have few pro athletes, like one pro athlete with who I train individually in the training studio. He's, you know, he can do everything. So we do deadlifts, Romanian deadlifts, and like we do only Nordics with the 8 second eccentric phase. And for example, he do 4 second eccentric, he's like this, and he do also some. I throw him the ball, the medical ball. We do throws, so he keeps the isometrics and he go to the end for the next 4 seconds. I don't know if you get it. Yeah, super.
yeah,
So
yeah,
like
I get.
Really like that thing, Casper, about throwing a ball while staying in a Nordic position, because in that way you also train your hamstrings to express force in a rapid manner, like they have to in the change of direction drills. So, in my opinion, it's really interesting thing. And I
yeah,
also
yeah. Mhm.
another question for you guys, for the footballers guys, regarding the maintenance of the strength in the long in-season period. How you manage to? You use, for example, Casper said partial ROM squats, and Wout said trap bar deadlift. But do you really manage to avoid strength losses during the in season, and how you manage to what loads and volume you use for that purpose?
Wout.
Yes, for me, it's yeah, we do testing around the season, so we have 4 times we test. Of course, you can see some things where you are losing maybe performance indicators or maybe increasing. Um, but we more focus on the summer testing, because then you have like an whole season in, and you can at the end of the preseason you have like more room to really increase the guys of the or the women. It's also possible, of course. Um, but in volumes, I often use, it depends on the day. So we have like a certain day you focus more on max power, and a certain day more on endurance. So it's mostly in the range of in 6 to 12. So in that way you have the beginning and the end, the beginning of the begin and the end of the end. So in that way, we probably do it. But to really see if we avoid it, yeah, you don't have. For me, in a club setting, it's difficult. You just see it from the scores, and then in more wellness based. But we don't use a metric where you can really see where you just lacking off of the strength or something else. You just take it from the test results. But maybe you have, or Casper has a good point from that, where you can also measure that if you want to
Like
avoid it.
for example, in my case, to be honest, because it's like semi-pro team, so it's not like the high performance team. We are doing one strength session in a week, with 2 on-pitch sessions, and on one of the on-pitch session, I have like 40 minutes of SNC time. So I do in season I do a lot of accelerations, high speed drawing with the wingers a lot, and also in the gym we are doing low volume, high intensity, just to keep the neuromuscular system activated and to not get overtrained, because we like very often we play matches every 4 days, every 3 days. So it's,
Yeah.
you know, you cannot train when it's that big volume of the matches.
Yes, sure. You have to manage the whole load of the week.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not easy. But
And-
doing that thing, you see at the end of the season some decrements in the strength while testing new max strength levels, or you see the strength levels are maintained toward the in-season phase.
Yeah,
About
for me,
your experience, I mean.
Yeah, for me, it's mostly maintained. And in the part what I said in the summer part, and at the end of the preseason, you can see some increases, but you still maintain it quite hard. And because what Casper also said, you train like one, maybe 2 times, and just really enhancing the gym performance, and the rest in the lower volumes are more injury prevention, to keep like the volume low. So that you have 2 times where you can just really uh, try them to improve, and the rest is just maintaining.
For me, like during season, in season, it's nothing about increasing the performance.
No.
If you increase the performance, it's perfect, but just not to get injured, and just prehab and just to maintain. But you know, if you get some increase, perfect. But we are not focusing on that, just to keep the same level, because like, you know, a lot of volume of the matches, so also fatigue is a important factor. So how you can increase with the big factor of with the big volume of running. They are running, you know, 8 to 10 kilometers every 3 days on the matches.
It's difficult. It's quite impossible to.
We call the metric freshness, and that's where want to be at the top freshness at Friday evenings. So if they
Okay.
play Saturday, we want them to be absolutely free. And Casper is also a footballer himself. Most footballers are just very they're thinking a lot, of course, in the pitch, but they don't want to be uh, lamping or struggling with, oh, I got heavy legs, sore legs, because then they
Yeah.
just annoyed and maybe the game is over for them. But that's the thing. And I also want to answer 3 questions before from Kenny, but it was just a nice conversation. But about the RDLs, I use them. I use them a lot, especially in a single leg way, with mostly kettlebells. But if I want to give an example on, it's hard because Casper said they don't have a great start baseline in execution in thing. That's also why Olympic lifts is a big discussion in football. Is it worth it to learn them Olympic lifts? And I think, and I've spoken to multiple clubs, that some people do it, some people don't, because it's a sport itself. So the technique is very hard. So you have to take lots of hours in. And like I said, mostly the clubs don't have a setting where they have like 6, 7 coaches where you can divide your group and you have proper guidance. So most teams don't use it because it's too much effort to get small adaptations, they say. But in my case, in a private setting, I use them mostly cleans, because yeah, I got personal one-on-one guidance. But that's also a way where you can see that footballers aren't that developed in the gym, and if you want to implement it, you have to maybe implement it in the club's vision in the strength and conditioning, where you really want from pre-season on to the entire season, you want to create a good clean so you can really get adaptation from it. So that's to give you an overview how that goes with clubs and why clubs don't do it or maybe do it. So
I think it's a real challenge.
yeah,
Like, it
here,
depends also on the athlete. Like some athletes that have very good mobility, for example, and are technically pretty good, which is not so common for footballers that they have good mobility.
No.
But yeah, it's rare. I have the chance that I have pretty young athletes under 16, so they learn pretty quick, and you can really invest the time on the technical part of the exercises, and because you don't have to focus so much on max strength or like heavy load or
on
yeah,
the output.
just light load repetition to really get the movements in the brain.
Yeah, true. And for example, the more closed professional club with me is FC Twente, and they have a combined academy with another pro club, Heracles. And I spoke to them, and they use the Olympic lifts, especially the cleans and the snatches, and they just implemented in their club vision and program from the entire academy, starting with under 18s, under 16 just basic, but under 18s they start with Olympic lifts. So there you can see like an overview in the entire academy that they implemented. So they do it, but yeah, most of them think it's. Oh, also think I only use it with my American footballer. Yeah, he has to clean a lot when he goes to America. He leaves this August, but further on, it's so much technical things you have to focus on. And is it your time worth? Yeah, probably not, or probably yeah.
Like if you only have one session per week with them, it's not
Yeah,
worth it, I guess.
true.
If you would have 2 or 3, it's another. You can think about it.
Yeah,
Yeah, like
true.
I have one more question to you, Val, because I have the same situation. You said that on Tuesdays you have the biggest volumes, like the athletes should work most on Tuesdays, yeah.
Yeah.
And also I was listening to a podcast, and because the coach from Poland, he's head of performance in Watford FC in England, and they also do Tuesday the biggest effort. Another case in Poland, the top one team Raków Częstochowa, they also do Tuesday the biggest effort, and we do also in my club. So like I know why is it, and I just want to ask you about what you think. Why is like that? Like the Tuesday is the biggest effort, and then I can share my point of view. What do you think about it?
Because you have like 72 hours from the match, so from the real effort, it's 72 hours. But Monday you also have a training, but then you can really peak them, and it's also you have how many hours? So you got Wednesday, Thursday, Fridays, uh, to recover from that hard session. So it's match day +3 and match day -3, if I
Mm-hmm.
say good. So that's that's the great balance because it's in the middle of the week and you play every week. So that's the main thing. And also because we at Wednesday and Friday we keep the volume low, but the intensity very very high,
Okay.
especially on Wednesday. Um, so you can recover from the volume. Thursday you add a little bit of volume, and Friday you decrease the volume to be as fresh as possible. But especially the match day, I don't know if you guys know it, David and Kenny, the match day +3 and -3.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Good.
that's a big thing. It's actually just this entire program on that method, but yeah, it's in the middle of the week, and you get 72 hours to really recover and to gain them more adaptations and to give them more load, volume, and intensity.
Yeah, and like I also think that when you have training the biggest like volume on Tuesday, the super compensation goes
Yeah,
on Saturday. Yeah.
yeah, that's true.
Okay.
I
So
think, correct me if I'm wrong, you can also use the days before the competition to getting some priming training. So while keeping volume very low, still holding the intensity is quite high, very high, if we can say that. And using, like, for example, the Friday workout. Wouter, you said you are going to compete, your athletes are going to compete on Saturday, aren't they?
Yeah, most of them, yeah.
Okay, Saturday. So maybe on Friday or Thursday, you can get them doing some priming workout. You agree with that?
Yeah, true. Yeah, absolutely. Especially in the volumes are still very, they see it as a slow day. That's of course, but yeah, to prime them and to keep them in the sport specific intensity, it's really, really useful.
Yeah, there's even like evidence for belated post-activation potentiation, like for the second day, for the next day, right? There's, I think there's evidence on that
Second day?
Yeah.
on
Okay.
the following day, because mostly they talk about PAP and after several minutes,
Yeah.
but it's also there's some evidence I think on the following day where it
Yeah,
can be
maybe
beneficial.
till the second day, some delayed
Like,
delayed.
but I think it's like the neuromuscular activation thing, yeah, that the muscles are activated.
It's
Yeah.
not just a neural aspect, but also an hormonal aspect, because
Okay.
androgen receptor are more active after the strength stimulus up to 48 hours, if I can remember well,
Oh,
something
I
like that.
didn't know that.
Okay.
Yeah. Nice.
Okay. But maybe if you know the article, please send me because I know you only use like the morning afternoon priming. So if you play like 6 a.m., then it's a good way to do like a half an hour training. Most of the clubs tend to do it, especially in a professional way, because then you have contracts and you can get them on Saturday over there. With semi-pros, I think it's a little bit different, but um, it's if you play Saturday 6 a.m. you play a game, they probably will train also Saturday mornings, maybe like 20-30 minutes just priming, so high intensity, couple of sprints, and then they go inside and prepare for the game. So, but I'm very curious about the way what you said, Kennedy, the day before. But I would love to see the details about it. That's very interesting.
Yeah, we'll try to find the study again.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So do we have some more questions about the football, Kenny and Davide?
I
Or
think
or
I'm
or we can
satisfied
go
with that.
straight to the track and field.
Let's do that.
Yeah, okay. So
Okay.
Kenny, now it's your turn, man. Talk about your running stuff because you are very into running. You do more endurance, yeah. And like I have some sprint background, but also now I do like for just for fun some 5 to 10K running. So we can speak about it, Kenny.
Sure, yeah, let's do it.
Okay.
Cool. Yeah, can it be interesting to compare a bit like the sprinting resistance training and the middle distance to long distance. So should be
Yeah,
fun.
so you can start with the endurance,
All
and
right.
I can talk more about also endurance, and then we'll go to the sprint.
Sure. So okay, I will start on like why does strength training even matter for middle to long distance runners?
Yeah,
Because as I said in the beginning, a lot of people fear it, mostly of gaining weight because they want to be light and efficient and not to have too much muscle mass, which is kind of yeah, in some ways understandable. But like the amount of research literature out there is pretty impressive on the evidence on performance improvement, especially in middle distance running, but also for like from 800 up to 10K are there's the most evidence. And yeah, what is improved the most in resist training is running economy, neuromuscular efficiency, power output, and even race performance, like times in races. Yeah. So now the key is actually knowing which kind of strength work actually boosts the running. So what the research found is that firstly, maximal strength training loads over 80% of 1 RM is the most beneficial. So heavy loads, low reps, and it is supposed to be the method which improves neural efficiency the most and rate of course development. And yeah, it leads to the best muscle recruitment. And all in all, without increasing the muscle mass too
And
much. Like
and what's your experience with the resistance training related to strength endurance? Because like endurance running, like long distance running, is all about the endurance. So what do you think about endurance, like strength endurance? Are you doing it or not?
Yeah, that's where it gets interesting, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because one could think that strength endurance and hypertrophy could be beneficial for runners because it's quite similar in the metabolic side of you, but that it is actually not beneficial. It could be even counterproductive because there's like this interference effect where the body, you're doing so much endurance stuff, and if you do similar stuff you do in the strength training, your body don't know anymore what to prioritize. So he actually doesn't really adapt good enough for both, like for the endurance running and strength endurance. Like he's over how do you say it? There too much stimulus, and too much of the same. So, and in addition, strength, endurance, and hypertrophy are creating a lot of fatigue. So, but you already get a lot of fatigue from running. So it's too much. It's just too much fatigue. And also hypertrophy, like you gain muscle mass. So you don't want too much muscle mass. So the best is actually to do the maximum strength training. And in combination, you should also do explosive strength and power training, such as plyometric jump training. And also Olympic lifting is pretty good, so, which, yeah, these,
Yeah.
and you
So
can combine these in a contrast method. So, for example, doing heavy squat and then right after maybe box jumps or
yeah,
yeah.
what I think I have an experience when I was training for 400 meters. I had that period in my life. I was training 1 year for 400 meters, and I had a coach with who we were doing one training, one whole session, just endurance, just strength endurance in a week, in a pre phase and also in a competition phase, which for me was like crazy, but okay, I was doing it because he was my coach. But for now, I think it's a big mistake that you kills the intensity, you kills the fast stretch shortening cycle because of the endurance, strength endurance. Yeah, that's my
Yeah.
experience, and like for me also, like in sprints, you cannot do strength endurance because it kills what is it all about the sprints. So be as fast as you can. In strength endurance, you don't use you are not as fast as you can. So
No, yeah,
there's
it's
there's
true.
no point.
Yeah, the loads are just too low, and the reps are way too high, and you don't need this muscle endurance fatiguing
Yeah,
effect
yeah,
in
like
sprinter.
the
And
yeah,
but
the weight is that low that you don't create so much power, and the velocity of the barbell is so low that there is no sense.
yeah, but
What do you guys
even
think
though
about
you
longer distances instead, like in 800 meters or even farther? Do you guys think strength endurance specific strength development in that sense would be more beneficial in your opinion?
no,
Neither.
no, it's too much of an overlapping effect with the work you already do as a in running. So when it's too similar of a stimulus, and then like the body doesn't see as a new stimulus for improving the neuromuscular efficiency. That's why the maximal strength work over 80% is more of a different stimulus. And like this thing we talked about earlier, when we said like if you have two similar things, and you have monotony, right? And you can have the injury risk increases.
Yes, you
And
cannot manage the whole load.
yeah, and
So
and
for
yeah,
like marathon, half marathon runners, you would not suggest training strength endurance, right?
no,
Really
don't do that.
interesting point.
It's
Really
too
interesting.
much fatigue. Like you're accumulating so much fatigue in training because you're doing so big volume of kilometers, and then when you do strength endurance in the gym, it's so counterproductive. Yeah,
Cool point.
yeah.
And like
So
one thing, because now we are talking about endurance, and because Wout like he need to go in a second, so we can talk more for a second about the sprints, because in football there is a lot of sprints, accelerations, etc. And then when Wout will leave the podcast, we can talk, David and Kenny, more about endurance. Okay?
Yeah, perfect.
So because I have some background in sprints, like what we were doing, it was like just clean power development, a short stretch cycle. That was all about it, fast velocity of the barbell. So without one method that's the best for you to develop speed, like sprint. What do you think?
One method.
Yeah. So, for example, what are you doing to develop sprint speed or acceleration in your athletes on pitch sessions, not in the gym, but on pitch sessions?
On pitch sessions, yeah,
Yeah.
I do repeated sprint ability, but then of course under the six repetitions, because otherwise you will hop on in the endurance part. So
Yeah.
the volume is very short. I do mostly very technical drills, but still basics for football because we can really go deep in the B skip variants. But in the club setting, it's um, maybe not worth it to go that deep because you have to do 22 players in one moment to really see if they're doing it correctly. It's hard, but it's mostly focusing on hip block, triple extension, trunk position when you sprint. And after that, it's because in football you don't go further than maybe 35, 40 meter sprints, maybe wingers, but then it will stop. So it's mostly then focusing on turns, how you turn, like we had in the Setanta College residential week, the full plan from the internal way to really change direction to the other way. So it goes not beyond 40 meters, we say. And then it's more focused on the Frans Bos literature. In Holland, it's, Frans Bos,
Yeah,
guys?
I
Yeah.
do. Mhm.
it's very based on a foot plan from above, hip lock, triple extension also a bit. So in those methods we use the most, and in the gym it's more. I use the velocity based training a lot. Um, but on
What
the
device do you use?
I now use my gym lab train,
Okay.
the purchase one. It's quite okay for now, but like we talked about earlier, now scanning and watching what's the best uh, price quality also to invest in a more device. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
and you, Casper?
Perfect. What we do, like when we are doing really sprint sessions on pitch, it's like in competition phase and very close to competition phase. We are not doing a lot of sprint efforts in pre phase. So we are doing more like endurance or like like uh, mixed metabolic runs. So what you are doing, it's like yeah, repeated sprints and even up to 8 reps, but with when you are more than 5 6 reps is like maybe 95% of intensity. So we are telling the athletes, don't do 100%, do about
Yeah,
95 and very long rest period. But when we are doing lower than 5 is like maximum full gas.
yeah,
And yeah, we are doing also some mini games, full sprint sessions. So for example, there is a pitch inside and there's one guy. um, when I would have the whiteboard, it would be easier. But you have the pitch, you have one guy here, one guy here, and they are doing full sprint efforts, and the coach is giving the ball inside the pitch and hop, and they are playing 1v1, for example. So we are doing very often the conditioning session mixed with the mini games. So
yeah.
something like this.
And do you then implement the sprints at the beginning, or do you do it all around? Because if you mix it with conditioning, maybe the sprint intensity or will fade away. Do you do
Yeah,
it
yeah,
at the
yeah.
start?
Like uh, we are doing it like in the first 30, 45 minutes of
Yeah,
the training because the athletes then can be more fatigue. And when you first, like the one of the most important methods, don't do endurance before the sprints.
yeah, true.
Yeah. So because you will kill the intensity.
Yeah. And do you you said you use the ball, and
Yeah.
I think in running technique it's sometimes hard to get the ball involved very
No,
early.
like
So, so
we are not using this exercise which I described. You have the pitch.
yeah, yeah.
The
At the
one
end,
the
yeah,
one athlete is without the ball, then they do full gas sprint, and then the coach implements the ball into the pitch, and who is the fastest, he gets the ball first, and they play, for example, 1v1.
yeah. Okay. So that was also my question about after how many meters you put the ball has a participation in the game, because I mostly also see coaches are doing it after 10 meters, but then yeah, the sprint is useless, of course. But I was just curious about when do you use the ball, because you first want like the sprint
Like it's
ability.
it's it's up, I think it's up to the position. When
Yeah,
you have the wingers, they run very often more than 30 40 meters. And for example, when you have the striker, so the 9, they don't run a lot. Sometimes they do full gas sprints, full efforts. So for them, shorter amount of meters. But for the wingers, and for example, when you play with in the system with 5 defenders, so with the uh, wingers and defenders in one player, they can do also like full amount of the meters, like full length of the pitch sometimes. Yes, so they can run also 100 meters very often.
yeah, nice.
So it's very up to the position.
Okay. Nice, man. I would love to continue the conversation, but yeah, I have to be there in 5 minutes, so it's
Yeah,
really
man.
my
No,
max
no,
time.
no,
Uh,
no worries.
For the listeners and watchers, have fun for the last part, and see you the next time. Thank you, guys.
Perfect. Thank you,
Was a
Wout. See you
pleasure.
Bye, Wout.
later.
Bye bye.
Here. Bye.
Okay, so we lost one guy.
Yeah.
So now let's talk more about endurance, like strength training and endurance. Like David, do you have some experience with endurance training or not? Not very well.
Let's say not pure endurance training, but for example, talking about calisthenics, the beginner athlete will focus his training more on maximal strength related on the static element or dynamic element on the body weight scale, which is in the case. But the advanced athletes who wants to compete, like we were saying before with Wout, in competition you have mm, to use a full minute or even 2 minutes to compose your skill set and to um, do the best skill you can do in the best form you can. So if the time you dispose is like 1 minute or 2 minutes, also some metabolic components like strength endurance components are quite essential, because it's not just about maximal strength but also about keeping that strength high with the fatigue which is still accumulating during the set. So in that context, in my opinion, strength endurance is still important also in calisthenics skills. Not in calisthenics street lifting, because as I said before, it's a much more similar discipline to powerlifting, or yes, powerlifting, let's say, which where you have just to do 3 lifts. You have 3 attempts for each of them. So no
Yeah.
endurance.
So like this street lifting is all about pure strength, no endurance, as I
Exactly.
think.
Exactly. Why skill, calisthenics skill is more about strength endurance or power endurance, because you also have power elements. Some calisthenics skills are power elements, like the freestyle ones. There is also another subcategory of calisthenics, which is calisthenics endurance, where you have to complete several reps of pull-ups, dips, muscle-ups, for example, in the less time possible. And that's the subcategory of calisthenics where endurance is the more important component. And regarding fencing, I also train some not strength endurance quality with my athletes, but some power endurance quality. So the ability to perform power movements in the time follow during the competition without losing the power output. So power endurance training is also a capability which I tend to develop with my fencing athletes.
How long
In
does a fencing match last?
3 minutes. Yeah. So
That's
you have three times of 3 minutes. So
okay. And how much rest?
1 minute
Okay.
between
Did
between.
you do any match or did you try fencing?
Sorry.
Did you did it once fencing?
Not a real competition, just some neither training, just some technical details with my colleagues, just to try the requirements about speed, mobility, which my athletes have to face with, and to um, gaining more insights about the discipline itself, not for competing at all.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah.
What are the athletes saying? What's the most challenging part about fencing? Like is it
Oh, for
is
sure. Yes, For sure, the mental aspects.
Yeah, I would
Because,
say too.
yeah, I saw
Concentration.
that limiting factor in almost every of my athletes. The mental aspects is the most challenging point, and I also trying to teach them some uh, relaxing technique like diaphragmatic breathing or progressive muscular relaxation or autogenic training, stuff like this to help the management of the emotional and psychological aspects during the competition. Because,
Yeah.
as I said, this is often, uh, at least for my athletes, more important sometimes than the physical part. Because, if you cannot manage the mental aspect, you cannot use your physical capabilities you have developed during your training, because you are drained. You have not more any energy to
Yeah,
use.
I think like this mental aspect and psychology is that wide that we can do one episode of our podcast just about it, because like you have super potential athlete, you have so high
Yes,
potential, but you cannot use it in 100% when you have low mental level. Like that's my
exactly.
point of view.
It's really a limiting factor. We cannot
Yeah,
see you as clear, Casper. Maybe you have some internet troubles, because
I had, but
it's
how
me.
about now?
Is it just
Your
me, Ken,
your
or
your
was
feast image, but we can hear
Is
you.
it-
That's the main part.
okay? Yeah.
I can see you guys, and I think the recording is okay. So
Okay.
All
Now
right.
you're moving. It's okay.
okay,
Okay.
perfect, guys. Because like we have 1 hour and 20 minutes of recording, I think we
Record.
can yeah we can go closer to the finish line. Just to summarize everything, like as we saw, sport like resistance training is very up to the sport. It's so sport specific. Like David, you talked about calisthenics, fencing. It's totally different in football, in running. Like like we talk with Wout, strength training is in football. It's more all about avoiding injuries, and it's like strength training is an equipment to develop speed and power, not like being just strong. And like in calisthenics, in street lifting, you have to be so strong. That's the factor. Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Yes.
Strength
So
training, the general mean to enhance neuromuscular capability for all your uh, targets, in my opinion, for power development, speed development, of course, strength development, hypertrophy development is the basis, is the fundamental capability, strength development. That's the point.
yeah, and for example, like I also think that in like talking about running, about more like endurance running, uh, being strong is not about just being strong, but about having that strong tendons, that strong joints, that then the joints and the tendons can go with you, like as an athlete, for the full length of the race, for example, that it will not be broken. What do you think, Kenny?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, you prepare your, as you say, your tendons to to stay also quite stiff,
Yeah,
because the tendon stiffness helps you with running efficiency and economy, to have a short ground contact time, and but if you're fatiguing early and you don't have this stiffness, you're losing energy and time. So that's another way to put it. And I think in sprinting, it's even more important to have high stiffness, because the ground contact time is even shorter, and you need to be more reactive. And Yeah.
Yeah, there was a study that in sprinting, like going from the start phase to finish line attack, it goes like firstly you have 50-50 in first 5 meters, ground contact time to flight time, so 50%, 50%, then it goes 10% of the time is ground contact and 90% of the time is flight time. So it's totally different comparing to the endurance running. Yeah. And comparing to endurance running, when you have, very soft shoes to keep the, like for example, half marathon, when you have so soft shoes to be able to run as fast as you can, but for 1.5 hours, not for 10 seconds.
For sure. Yeah.
Okay, guys. So I think we can finish. That's
Yeah,
all
I
for
think
today. Yeah.
done great. A bit much longer than the previous one, but rich of content, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Good
Yeah, I
discussions.
think this podcast is very rich in some studies in our point of views, so it's like more specific to the sport, not just overview of ourselves than it was before. So yeah, thank you guys for today.
Good.
It was a pleasure.
It was.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for being here.
Yeah,
And
thank
see
you.
you next time.
Yeah, thank
You
you
can
our
also,
viewers, and yeah,
in the description you can then look for the studies I mentioned. So
and you can also ask some questions, and also you can mention some topics. Our viewers, you can mention some topics that you want us to talk about.
Would be
Okay,
great.
perfect. Thank you guys, and see you later.
See
thank
you
you for
next time.
watching. Thank you for listening. Bye bye.